Venezuela, a senior minister and close confidant of President Hugo Chavez, has stepped down in a growing banking scandal that has triggered a purge of business with ties to the government. During his weekly televised show, Chavez said he's accepted Science and Technology Minister Jesse Chacon's resignation. Chacon's brother was arrested following the closure of a bank he headed. Authorities have also arrested the director of Venezuela's Banco Real, bringing to 8 the number of bankers in custody. Our Venezuela correspondent, Dima Khatib, is currently in Bolivia, in Venezuela. She joins us from there now. Dima, what is the background to this case with the minister resigning?
Yeah, the minister's resignation comes after the surprise arrest of his brother, Ernest Chacon, who Chavez says used to be a poor guy just like us and has now become very rich. Now, Chavez is not saying that he is guilty, but he is saying that his case will be looked into just like the case of many others accused in this bank scandal. Now, this is not really a surprise in the context of Chavez's economic policy, which is based on strengthening and expanding state control over the economy. What is surprising is the timing and the reasons behind this takeover of 7 banks by the government. If you look at the 7 banks, they actually represent 9% of the total deposits of the nation's savings, and that means that the state now controls 24% of the nation's savings, and it will actually make a new bank out of 4 of these banks, plus another bank it controls. It will be called the Bicentenario, referring to 200 years of Venezuela's independence, and the other banks will be liquidated. If you look at the owners of these banks, then you will find that 4 of these banks are owned by one guy, and he's been in custody since the 20th of November, and he's got 40 companies. Some of them are service providers for the state's public food chains, such as Mercal and Pedeval, that give the poor their subsidized food every day. The other 3 banks are owned by another guy who is not in custody, and Chavez claims he's in Miami and has asked the Interpol to help him capture him and capture other executives of some of these banks.
Now, Dima, there is a political element to this, isn't there? I mean, there's a perception that Hugo Chavez has been losing support because he's been turning a blind eye to corruption in the country, and this is a way to get that support back by showing that he's going to get tough with those who are committing this corruption.
Absolutely. This is more a political story than a financial story, actually, because this scandal that, Chavez says these banks have committed irregularities and there's been fraud and people have mismanaged the money of the people. All of this comes as Chavez is trying to control a very big shortcoming of his government, which is corruption. Corruption is actually considered, alongside crime and inflation, one of the major worries of the Venezuelan people, who have actually expressed this in the last polls, which have showed that Chavez has lost a lot of his popularity. So now he's clamping down on corruption. He's clamping down on his own followers. He's actually threatened 3 times just this week that he will not hesitate to take any action against any bank or any financial institution. He's talked about insurance companies, about other financial institutions, and he will go behind anybody, he says, even those working in the public sectors who would have been involved in anything against the law. He says nobody is above the law, and obviously he's sending a very strong message at a time that he's lost some of his popularity, and we wonder how far he's willing to go, whether Ernest Chacon, the brother of the Minister of Science, is just a scapegoat, or is he the first one on a list of many nouveau riches who used to be poor revolutionaries just a few years ago. We'll just have to wait and see.
Thanks, Dima. Dima Khatib, they're talking to us from La Paz in Bolivia.
More than 100 world leaders are due to take part